Our latest one is Ramsey Solutions. Dave Ramsey over there. Dude, Entree Leadership Podcast, their event, everything. Dude, they talk about us 4 or 5 times every single time. The podcast a couple of times in every episode. Dude, it's ridiculous, bro. Like our numbers on lead gen, like for a Facebook ad campaign, if you're wanting to get new clients, you're looking at like maybe $150 per showed up appointment. For Dave Ramsey, dude, we're like $75. When I say I mean we're at $75 cost per appointment. Those are referral leads, not some cold lead where they were sitting on the commode and like, oh, dude, this looks like a cool ad. You know, like this is like somebody sent them. You know what I mean?
On this episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast, we have JC Hite. JC is the founder and CEO of Hite International, a holding company focused on marketing and communications, and is one of the fastest growing marketing agencies in the US. You're going to want to hear from JC on how to form killer sponsors to drive more leads, the new agency model that everyone is going crazy about, and my favorite, why cash flow is one of the most important things for agencies to scale. Buckle up for this one, folks. This is going to be a great episode. But before we begin, visit funnel-.com if you are an agency owner or media buyer to hear about how you can scale your ads and get cash back. Without further ado, here are your hosts, Zach Johnson and Dylan Carpenter.
All right, everybody, we're back in action with another episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast. We got your host today, Zach Johnson and Dylan Carpenter in the house. What's good, Zach? You ready for this?
Yeah, man. I'm pumped.
Oh, yeah. So today we got a special guest, a good friend of mine, Mr. JC Hite, the founder of Hite Digital. He's got some crazy cool stuff cooking in the kitchen over there in agency land. And I mean, you know, KFC, McDonald's, how those are franchises. We're going to be diving into the franchise model for agencies. But these guys shoot probably touch 24 plus million a year in ad spend across Google and Facebook. So they're heavy hitters and know what they're doing. So, I mean, JC, what's good, man? Thanks for jumping on the podcast.
Dylan, bro, thanks for having me, man. I'm super pumped to chat with you guys today.
Hell yeah. And you got a killer view over there in Nicaragua, man. That looks freaking flawless.
Bro, I don't like the cold, man. Nicaragua stays about 90 degrees all year. That's about what I like. So we got to stick it over here.
That is cozy, man. So give everybody a little background of kind of, you know, who you are, kind of what you're getting into so everybody has some context.
Yeah, bro. I was, I started off in like the tech ed world, ended up parting ways with a company, got it over to IBM actually when I exited and got into the ad world. This was like 6 years ago. I actually haven't been in very long. It's crazy. And 6 years ago, I joined an organization and got some equity, and we grew to about 1,500 clients, give or take about 300 team members. And about 3 years in, I exited. And it just wasn't a culture fit. It wasn't the right fit for me, and decided to part ways and got rid of the non-compete, got rid of everything. And man, we started Hite. We started from scratch 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago and maybe 2 months, and 88 team members later. No, new one started today. 88 team members later. We're, it's been an incredible journey. We've been growing and learning and scaling, and ultimately, trying to figure out how do we create a more dependable, scalable system for agencies throughout the world, and specifically in like North and South America. How do we create something that's very scalable, but at the same time very sustainable in the market, which is tough.
Oh yeah, I mean, even before talking with you before this, I mean, churn's a huge issue, and I know you popped out some super juicy numbers to where you're making an impact on some agencies already, even this year alone, man.
Dude, and this is one thing, not a lot of people know about franchising and how it works, and even myself, like, dude, I know nothing about franchising as like a tradition, but dude, some of the interesting things there when you decide or inquiring, like, man, I think I want to buy into a franchise model. One of the things is they have to be very accurate. They can't BS. You heard about these, like, I'm going to get you to 10K in 90 days or 100K in 2 weeks or $1 billion in 22 minutes. Like, dude, we can't say any of that. We can only speak facts. We can only speak things that we can prove. Why is that? Because it's treated as an investment, right? Like Dylan's buying into a system that is supposed to work. What is the proof that it's going to work, right? And dude, we launched this model. I think we're one of the first ones. We launched it in November and did our training for the first group of 5 in December. We're 3.5 months. Dude, it's been insane, the numbers we've been getting. It's been crazy, dude.
How many cities are you in so far?
So we just sold our 6th city. And we're maxed out. Like our goal, we kind of have not a waiting line, but we're approving them very slowly because we gotta make sure we're partnering with the right people. Because again, I gotta disclose everything, right? And so if we bring in Dylan and Dylan sucks and Dylan's agency crashes in 2 months, now I gotta report to everyone else in the future, like, dude, I sold 10 and 3 of them went bankrupt or 2 of them went bankrupt, right? And so it's so crucial to bring in the right people at the right time and to really be able to make it happen.
And what's a sweet spot for kind of who these, qualified candidates are that are good quality in your eyes?
Dude, like this is what's interesting. When we first started, I was like, dude, no one that's big is going to jump into this, right? Like why would someone that's already doing 40, 50,000 in revenue a month jump into a franchise model? We've actually seen half of our agencies that have joined are already doing 35, 40K and above, which is crazy to me. Well, why is that? Well, it's because what we've seen now, like really digging in and like pitching this model, is that a lot of agencies, they hit this like plateau mark. So you mentioned churn a few minutes ago. Churn is so crucial. Really good agencies, normally they can get where they can sell like 6,000, 7,000 in new services rendered per month. Let's just dream that number. And what a lot of us don't realize is that our average churn over time, like national average in the US, is like around 10 to 12%. So this is great. You sell 7,000, you net 6, but then the next month you sell 7,000 and you net like 5.5. And eventually you get to this number, maybe it's around 40 or 50, 60 grand where you're selling, let's say you're selling 4 grand, but you have 40,000 in clients, you churn 10% and you're just rotating, right? You're rotating. And this like, now you got to pick up the sales, right? So, at the original agency I was at where I said we have 1,500 clients, dude, we were losing 125 clients a month. So we had to sell 125 just to break even, right? And so like there's these tiers. And so, dude, the right fit, dude, I'm trying to figure that out myself. About half of our franchises have come in, in that 35 to 40K or above. We had half of them came in at 0, nothing, or maybe they had like a hosting plan already sold. And about about a third have come in at about 10,000 to 12,000 in revenue. They're getting started, but 4 or 5 clients.
That makes total sense. So let's dive into the good stuff now. So of course, on the podcast, we're going to kind of dive into the rich ad, AKA what's working good for you at this kind of point in time.
Yeah.
So, what's working good for you over there?
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. So, we really focus on ad spend a lot, with Google. It's super important. The more you spend in ad spend, the better the relationships can be with those different types of channels, especially with Google, even more so with Microsoft and Facebook. Nobody cares about. And so it's so freaking crucial. What we found is, so we focus a lot on our ad spend at the client level, and how are we gaining that the most, I think is really important and crucial. And dude, that's through partnerships, dude. We all know that referrals are by far the best lead gen. And there's coaches out there that tell you like referrals are not scalable, but I'm here to tell you they are. And they're called sponsorships. Like, how do I get some of the biggest brands and names in the world to talk about me? Well, you can pay them to, is one way. Now you can have enough quality where they just want to talk to you about it, or be pretty enough so they want to talk about you, but you can also pay them to. And we have crushed it in that. Dude, our latest one is Ramsey Solutions, Dave Ramsey over there. Dude, Entree Leadership Podcast, their event, everything, dude, they talk about us 4 or 5 times every single time. The podcast a couple of times in every episode. Dude, it's ridiculous, bro. Like our numbers on lead gen, like for a Facebook ad campaign, if you're wanting to get new clients, you're looking at like maybe $150 per showed up appointment. For Dave Ramsey, dude, we're like $75. When I say we're at $75 cost per appointment. Those are referral leads, not some cold lead where they were sitting on the commode and like, oh, dude, this looks like a cool ad. Like this is like somebody sent them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And this is all from freaking sponsorships, man. I imagine, was it an easy one to close, or was it a pretty tedious process?
Dude, it's just like anything else, right? Like anything worth getting is tough, right? So like, we and we're constantly reaching out to different sponsors and different opportunities and going, okay, how can we make this work? What can we do? Right. And we're specifically looking for either a pay per account methodology or a pay per lead methodology, right? We're trying not to do too many of those where it's like 10K up front and then maybe you get leads, maybe you don't, right? And there's a lot of dude, especially right now, especially these guys that, maybe the big organization, like Digital Marketer reached out to me the other day, right? And they wanted us to sponsor one of their podcasts. Well, all of these guys, they had these huge events, they had these huge circuits, so they didn't need sponsorships. But now those events are not doing so hot, right? And so they're all looking for other ways to sponsor and get revenue with their other platforms, right?
Do you think these sponsors, you kind of mentioned like, these events are kind of, just haven't been around. Do you think these sponsorships are more valuable in the COVID era or after this COVID era when there's going to be more in-person events essentially to where you're going to be sponsored freaking everywhere and just kind of be on all these podcasts, names on billboards, that kind of style, if that makes sense?
I think it's all about, it's, the cost of events are really interesting. Ad World is coming up here in a couple of weeks. I don't know what the podcast released. It might be after or before, but Ad World, our sponsorship there, I think is like $30,000, right? And we're like the keynote sponsor. So Seth Golden's on stage speaking, we're behind him, right?
Yeah.
And we're expecting some really high returns on that. But it's a compound. It's just like with anything else, right? Like it's going, okay, what is my cost per impression? So for us, it's a stage, right? Or a podcast, it's listeners, downloads. And of that, what is my cost per conversion to the site, right? Cost per click or whatever you want to call it. And then you kind of going through that funnel and measuring it out. Like what is your, we treat it no different than a Google campaign, right? So we're looking at our cost per visitor on that specific landing page related to Dave Ramsey. We're looking at the conversion rate of that landing page. We're looking then the close rate of that. So what we found is like with Ramsey, dude, we have a 39% close rate on those leads. Oof. That's in month one. So it's not counting like, oh, maybe we close them next month, right? That's stupid. That's really, really good, which means even though I am paying less for that lead, I would be willing to pay much more for that lead, right? Because it's such a strong lead for me. And so, man, events, sponsorships, those type of things, bro, we're going like deep into, and for us, it's all about obviously expanding the business on the revenue side, but also expanding the partnership with these big channels, right?
Oh, and you're hitting the jackpot over there. It's kind of funny because I remember listening to Zach's, pitches back in the day to agencies and, hey, if your LTV is 50K, you should be willing to put, 10% of that to acquire that customer. So we're looking at 5K right there to where if you're getting leads for $75, closing 39% in that first month, dude, that's like juicy. Dude,
it's, don't tell too many people about it. So I got a long contract with them. So there's nothing they could do. I guess they would be, but dude, there's so many opportunities like that out there. And I think podcasts are a big one, dude. I think reaching out to podcasts, you can even get on the small podcast and say, dude, I want to sponsor it and I'll pay you $75 per text in. And even if they're small, let's say they have 100 visitors. If you get something, you get something. If you don't, it doesn't matter, bro. And I think there's a lot of opportunities like that with smaller guys that are just trying to get the opportunity to make money on their podcast or their YouTube channel or their TikTok or whatever. And you can build a model that makes sense for them and keeps you in good shape.
I love this, man. So that's pretty. Let's go to the ugly now, man. Let's dive into this poor ad segment. What's something y'all thought would just kill it that absolutely flopped?
Oh, bro. So listen, I debating on saying this out loud, but I'm going to do it because most of your listeners honestly will disagree with me wholeheartedly. And especially the coaches listening will disagree with me, bro. But I published a video, I think it was January 2020, where I basically said that I thought Facebook ads within a couple of years would be gone, right? The way we know it today in terms of lead gen, gone. And I think it's coming, man. I really think it's coming. Facebook is having a lot of issues, and you have a lot of agencies, and this is where, Simon Sinek talks about, the goal to success here is like just staying in business. You can always scale, you can always grow, but the moment you go out of business, then you're done. And I think the security there of the channels is so important. If you're building an agency and 80% of your revenue is built on a product, a channel like Facebook, number one, their support is terrible. It's really hard. Number two, like it's really unclear why an ad might be disapproved or where an account got banned or whatever. Like it's really having a lot of struggles there, right? And this is my 80% of my revenue, 70, 60, whatever. But if it's above 40%, I think you really have to look at those things. Not only that, dude, if you look, I did a case study with WordStream a couple of years ago. And with WordStream, we found on average with Facebook, with people running Facebook ads, the average churn is about 25% across the board. Now you can make any excuse up in the world. Maybe the ads didn't work. Maybe the account, maybe the objections weren't clear. Maybe the expectations weren't set. Doesn't matter. 25% turnover month over month with Facebook. PPC was around 12. SEO was around 5%. Well, that changes the game dramatically. And then you look at just their whole entire bidding platform for Facebook, dude. I mean, if you think about it, like discrimination is illegal in this country. And so if you think about Facebook ads, I'm going to show you an ad based on your sex, based on your location, i.e. revenue, right? This zip code versus that zip code, this side of the bridge versus that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to show you based on your injury. Like all these things are like inherently kind of against policy at scale, right? And you're starting to see that, right? Like with real estate, you can no longer age discriminate on real estate. You have to show your ads in real estate from 14-year-olds all the way up, right? And so I think you're going to start seeing that more and more and more. And it's not about Facebook inherently bad. It's about understanding our numbers, understanding our data as we're scaling our agencies and understanding and looking and going, where is my churn? Why are clients really leaving me? And what are the correlations there? And how can I pivot? Right. And so, man, I think in terms of ads, I'm gonna speak much more holistically. I think that individuals, agencies that are focusing a majority of their revenue of their business in supporting Facebook ads, I think are in for some rough months and years ahead.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you can even see in Facebook groups of people struggling in the special ad categories. So, I mean, it's going to get trickier and trickier without a doubt, especially with all the regulations and all the Apple changes. So, I mean, It's one of those wild rides you got to buckle up for. And, but hey, when it comes down to it, for those who kind of thrive in that environment, I mean, it's going to kill off Darwinism at its finest. It's going to kill off the low advertising agencies and hey, the other ones are going to thrive. So it's definitely an interesting perspective out there.
Dude, with any apocalypse or problem, there's a ton of people who win. Like even COVID, dude, there was a ton of people who lost in COVID, but there was also people that made a ton of money off of that, right? And so with every shift in economics, like it creates a ton of opportunities. You're 100% on point there.
I'm loving this.
This episode is brought to you by Funnel Dash's Ad Card, the only charge card exclusively for your digital ad spend in partnership with MasterCard. And if you are an aggressive affiliate dealing with dozens of ad accounts, or you are in gray hat or black hat verticals such as drop shipping, CBD, or other verticals where you're dealing with ad accounts getting shut down, business managers getting shut down, or even deplatformed from platforms like Facebook and Google, then you absolutely need to check out Funnel Dash's Ad Card. We give you unlimited free virtual debit and credit cards, so you can have a dedicated card for every single ad account campaign. And you can attach any name and address in the US, so you have complete anonymity on the card and at the card level. Plus, one of my favorite features is that you don't have to pre-fund or even top off like most typical virtual card solutions today. So if this is you and you're operating these verticals, whether you're an agency or an advertiser, then check out AdCard at funneldash.com.
All right, man, the final piece of the pie, the last puzzle piece. With the name of the podcast, we love to kind of meet in the crossroads of marketing and some sort of, financial principles or tips there.
Yeah,
so what kind of financial tip or principle can you kind of share with the audience based off your expertise and background?
It's interesting. So I don't know if you know this, Dylan, but I was a financial advisor.
I did not.
I like 20. I was a financial advisor. I started banking when I was 17. I was the courier because I couldn't legally be, a teller, and ended up being a teller. And then right after college, became a financial advisor. And, one of the things I am most proud of at Hite, like my biggest accomplishment so far, was 2020. We didn't fire one person and we didn't cut one salary, right? Like we held true, and it was actually a really good year for us overall. We had some bad months, of course, March, April, May. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of our principles on finance. I mentioned Dave Ramsey as one of our sponsors. And so obviously we kind of halfway like the guy. Not that I agree with everything he says, like at all, but there's some really sound principles. And I think agency owners, because of our industry that we're in, it's constantly shifting. Like even within how you do Google today, 3 or 4 years ago is different. SEO is so different. Facebook is different. Because there's so much shift there, the more stable we are, the more we have in terms of leverage of being able to shift, time to think, I think the easier things are going to be. And so at Hite, again, specifically my real estate company, we have tons of debt, right? But with the marketing company, we have zero debt in the company, and we have a lot of liquid cash savings. I mean, a lot. And so for me, I think in terms of like financial, advice here, I would definitely say if you're growing and scaling an agency, even if you're a bigger one, right? We're doing several $100,000 a month in revenue. I would still be going, okay, how much money do I have in the bank? And when I count money in the bank, I don't count cash, I count months, right? And so at Hite, if we have $200,000 in the bank, that means we can survive 4 weeks, right? Like that's not a lot of money, right? Man. If you have $300,000 in the bank and your expenses are only $10,000, okay, cool. You got a ton of money in the bank, right? And so how many months of savings do you have? Because that correlates your ability to make decisions when you have to shift. So I'll give you an example. In March, dude, of last year, bro, when everybody was like at this pickle because clients were just leaving. Well, you're in a pickle because your employees, your staff cost a certain amount, right? And so there's only so much you can discount your product before you're like just losing money, right? And so you discount a certain amount. If they leave, so be it. And you're just going to have to let go people. Well, at Hite, dude, we were doing SEO for like $50 a month, right? Like stupid cheap. Why? Because we had savings. We knew we could last for a really long time, even if we had 30 or 40,000 in revenue. Well, what did that do for us? That made us be able to bounce back that much quicker because our clients were still our clients and they were still getting marketing services, which means my clients were selling quicker than any of my competitors' clients, right? And so they were bouncing back quicker and I could lift. Dude, August was our most profitable month in company history. Basically 4 or 5 months, whatever, after the pandemic hit, right? And so I think for us, the biggest things that we do from a financial pillar standpoint, we save as much money as we can. Our goal is maybe by the end of 2023, but 2022, our goal is to have a full 4 months of liquid cash savings, right? Which is a lot. It's tough. And then not have any debt, man, because it's when those tough times happen or when a shift happens, you can get caught, and it's tough. It's really tough.
So you're just not a debt guy at all, then?
I think there's good debt. So this is where I would disagree with Ramsey on a little bit, but I think that there's also bad debt, and if you're not sure what it is, then it's probably bad debt. Right.
Oh yeah. Well, shoot, this has been freaking enticing. So what's the best way we can kind of support you? How can, you kind of listen up to the audiences here, and, how can they kind of reach out to you?
Yeah, bro. I mean, you can find me on Instagram. I think the marketing department even has me on TikTok doing stuff. You can find me anywhere, right, bro? Like I'm depending on if you're 12 or 30 out there listening. Dude, if you're interested in the franchise model or just learning more, just having a conversation, franchise.hitedigital.com is a good place to connect with us. And I'm pretty open, man. It's just all about having conversations. If we're an awesome fit, awesome. If not, we'll help you find the right fit. We don't care. So you may come back later. So yeah, anywhere.
Hell yeah, man. Well, JC, man, thanks for jumping on. We're going to have you come back on in 6 months to kind of gauge how it's been going, man. I'm pumped.
Well, let's do it, bro. We'll put it in the calendar. Hope y'all have a good one.
Yeah. Woo! Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, JC.
See you guys.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rich Ad Poor Ad podcast. If you're like me and listen to podcasts on the go ahead and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and richadpoorad.com/podcast. And if you absolutely love the show, go ahead and leave a review and a comment, share with a friend. If you do, take a copy, screenshot of it, email me, Zach@funneldash.com, show me you left a review, and I'll give you a free copy of the Rich Ad Poor Ad book. To learn more about the book, go to richadpoorad.com. To leave a review, go to richadpoorad.com/review. Thanks again.